Really, yes.
Don't look at that, look at this.
My name is Orville Sarles. I was a member of B Battery, 493, in the 12th Armored Division. I was a battery recorder, called for a T5.
Orville, we're going to start by getting right into the story about Adolf Eichmann.
Okay.
So tell us about where you were and what you were doing and how it happened.
We were near Ulm. We were in the vicinity of Ulm in southern Bavaria. And the big thing was to get some guns, some pistols. We were all happy about capturing pistols, which we took from the German prisoners. So John Molesky and I went out scouting around, and we came to a little clump of trees, and we looked in there, and there were 5 people in there, all looking at our tanks going by. So we rousted them out and took what guns they had. One fellow was very neatly dressed and all that, and they were all kowtowing to him. So before we let him go, we made him open his pack, and we found a Walters 32 in there. Brand new, never used, never shot. So we knew he was a big shot. He had to be a major or above in the SS to have a gun like that.
So what did you do with him?
Anyway, before we let him go, we inspected his pack. That's where we found the gun. John found it, not I. We took him and 2 other guys with him and 2 of the women, and we started back towards our CP, and they were collecting the prisoners as you brought them out, and that's where we let him go. And he was taken by the guys that were capturing prisoners. They had hundreds of them there. Well, that's the last we saw of him at that time. Now I'm home, and I see the pictures of Eichmann's captured in South America by the Israelis, and I recognized who he was. It was the same guy we had captured.
This was 15 years later.
At least.
So,
I think you're right about that. It was probably around 60.
1960, yeah.
And this was 45 when we captured him.
And there, so Eichmann and his assistant were captured, and you let the other 3 go, isn't that correct?
Yes. We asked him what he was doing there, and they were out watching our tanks through field glasses, and he thought we were running the tanks around the block and past them again, because there were so many of them. You know, when you sit there and watch an armored division go by, it takes forever.
Right.
Before they're all past you. It's hours.
It takes hours. What did you call that? There was something about the line of departure, when they were on the move, they all had to line up in a row. What was that called? You told me that one day. Well, we'll forget it. All right, so in any case, you think you got Eichmann. There's one other thing. You discovered the gun, and he had said he didn't have a gun. And then what happened?
Well, we went through his pack.
Yeah.
And that's where we found it.
And what did
It was
Molesky,
brand new.
and what did Molesky do about that?
Threatened to shoot him.
And was Eichmann, I mean, was he scared, or was it?
Yeah, he was very docile. He was like all the other officers. He would do exactly as you told him, and he let you know it, that he'd do exactly what you told him to do.
Did he speak English, do you know?
No, but he spoke a very easy German to understand.
I see. And what did he look like?
He looked like a guy with a long nose, skinny, and a funny shaped face.
And you once mentioned to me that he actually looked Jewish to you.
He did. He had a Jewish face.
What an irony.
That's probably why he killed all the Jews. He and Hitler had a psychosis.
Right. So anyhow, what happened to that gun?
It's in the museum now,
12th Armored?
12th Armored,
Okay,
B battery.
right. Now, and you say that only SS officers of major or higher had that gun?
That's right.
Okay. So now, Orville, tell me, we're going to skip to the beginning of your career in the Army. How did you get into the Army? Drafted or enlisted?
I was drafted and sent to Fort Niagara, outside of Buffalo.
Right.
And I was there for about 2 weeks. And they loaded us all up and they sent me to Camp Campbell, Kentucky, to the 12th Armored Division.
When was that?
That was in September 1944.
That late, September 44? How old were you?
21.
So you went to Camp Campbell, Kentucky. Then what happened? Tell us about the training. Any interesting
No, I was
things?
sent to the 12th Armored Division,
Yeah.
to B Battery, and that's where I finished the war. B Battery, 12th Armored Division.
Right.
So,
And, you know, did anything funny happen during that, or any interesting experiences during training?
well, I was a sergeant, and I was busted, and I was put on KP the next day. And while I was on KP, we were inspected by a four-star general, four-star Lucas, who was in command of the 4th Army at that time. And he was just back from the Antio beachhead. And he was a big, heavy man, and he wore cavalry boots. And he walked like a walrus. And he had a mustache like a walrus. Anyway, that morning, the sergeant gave me some apricots that were turning brown. They're fresh apricots, and I went up and put them in the garbage. And our garbage was up on a stand, a rack. And I pulled the lid off and dumped them right in. Now, they came and inspected us. He walked in where we ate, and here comes this guy with 4 stars on him, and a polished helmet, and he walked like a walrus. Our mess sergeant almost fainted. He couldn't, I stood up and hollered attention. So he sort of came over to me, he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm cleaning a grease trap." He says, "Don't it smell?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Come with me." So I followed him around. He had a colonel following him around from our outfit, Colonel Ryan. Anyway, I followed him all around. We went outside and up on the garbage rack, naturally. And he started looking in the garbage cans. And he found the apricots that I threw in there. And he said, "What are these?" And I said, "They're apricots." He said, "What are they doing in there?" I said, "The mess sergeant told me to throw them out." He said, "Send for your mess sergeant." So I had Sergeant Ross come, get up on there. It's 110 degrees, I want you to know. And we're standing out in the sun on this garbage rack with this general and all the goddamn officers standing around. So now he starts bawling out at our sergeant. How about all the stuff he sent out to save food and all that? And now we dumped out the apricots. So he sent for the captain. The captain came running up on this, where the garbage is, and he didn't have his helmet on. So the general said to bellowed at him, "Captain, you're uncovered." You know, you had to have a helmet on in order to report to an superior officer.
Who was the captain?
Who was the captain?
Captain Malk. Anyway, he almost flew off of that rack when he bellowed at him.
You know, that you told me the other day that these were persimmons. Do you mean persimmons or apricots?
It's persimmons, I think.
Oh, you were thinking they were persimmons. Okay. So it's not apricots, it's persimmons. Anyhow, I like apricots better, by the way. Anyhow, so then did you ever end up in Abilene, Texas?
I visited a few times.
No, but I mean, were you stationed there? Were you trained there, or did you enter later?
No, we were in the Camp Barkley.
Yeah, that's what I mean, Camp Barkley.
Yeah.
You went to Camp Barkley.
Yeah.
How long did you train at Camp Barkley?
Well, we were in Camp Campbell. We went to Tennessee Maneuvers. It must have been 40, end of 43, I don't remember.
Yeah.
And anyway, when the
44?
maneuvers were over, we got on a
It
train,
was wrong with that. When he went, what year was it when you enlisted?
42.
42, you said 44.
Yeah,
So we got to correct that. You, at 21,
it was 42.
it was 1942 when you ended up going to Camp Campbell,
When you were.
Yes.
when you were drafted. See, I got a little confused when you said 44. All right,
I would have been confused too.
You
right,
were.
I must have been.
right. So anyhow, you're now in Camp,
Camp? No, we
Camp
went to-
Barkley.
Well, we went to maneuvers first in Tennessee.
Yeah,
And then we loaded up from there and went to Barkley.
Right.
We didn't know where we were going.
right,
We had never heard of Camp Barkley.
right. So you're now in Camp Barkley. Anything interesting happened there? Was it just a lot of training?
It's a desert, a lot of training. Well, we went to a few places in Texas. One was where Juarez was on the Mexican side of the border, and we were in El Paso on the American side.
Yeah.
And we had a reputation for getting in trouble. So anyway, at Saturday at 12 o'clock, we all got passes and the border was closed. You couldn't go to Juarez. They didn't want us in there. They were afraid we were going to start a riot.
So what did you do? You went back to El Paso?
That's where we were in El Paso.
I see, so, all right. So, but did you have a lot of fun while you were actually in camp at,
It all depends on what you call fun. I went with the guys once on that journey,
yeah,
and we had an old soldier with us, and they got drunk as a skunk, and the MPs picked us up, and we all got thrown in a can.
all right. So anyhow, you're finally trained, right? And then you went where in order to embark?
We went to New Jersey.
And was it Camp Shanks? Is that the place?
It sounds good.
All right, so that may be New York, but in any case, it's Camp Shanks, you think. And you embarked from Camp Shanks. What was the name of the boat?
I was on the USS General Bliss.
General Bliss. And what kind of a boat was it?
It was a good ship. It was the flagship of the armada that we were in.
Uh-huh.
There were still U-boats out there at the time. So they were afraid they were shooting at us. So everything had to be quiet and all that.
What was the approximate date of leaving New York?
I think September 16th,
44?
44.
Right. And so how long did it take to make the journey?
Took us 11 days.
You did a lot of zigzagging, you think?
Yeah.
And how was the food? I heard the food wasn't very good on the Empress.
Well, everybody was seasick. It didn't matter. Couldn't eat anyway.
How many men on the ship? Roughly?
1,100, it seems to me.
Only 1,100?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like a lot. And I understand you told me it was a clean ship.
Yeah, it was very clean.
Good.
It was a Navy ship.
Right. So then you went to England. Where did you land in England?
Bristol,
Bristol. And there, where did you go?
Tidworth Barracks,
And where is that?
and the Salisbury Plain, right in the middle of England.
Right in the middle. And did you say that, were there any other soldiers in that camp?
Well, 82nd Airborne had just gone. They jumped into France that same morning that we came in there.
They jumped in September. Wonder what they were doing. Anyhow, so they jumped into France and you took over
We took over their barracks.
their barracks. How long were you there?
Short time. I don't remember how long.
Right. And then you went across, about when did you cross the channel?
About a month later, I would think.
I see. And all your equipment and everything was there already?
No, we brought it with us.
You brought it with you?
Yeah, our tanks, our M7s were right on the ships that crossed the channel.
I see.
And we all had our weapons with us and all that.
And then where did you go when you got to France? Where did you land?
We went to a little town by the name of Offay.
Was that, did you land?
Came into La Harre,
You came into La Harre. You went to La Fay.
off a,
Afay. And how long were you there?
about a month.
Oh, you were there a month. And then, what happened?
Well, eventually we stayed there for that month, and there was the French underground and all that around there and everything, and crap happening around there, but we didn't do any actual fighting. They took some of them and had them fire at Cherbourg, some of our guns. Fired at Cherbourg, there were still Germans, I guess, in control of Cherbourg at the time. And there was an island out there where the Germans were on.
Are we talking about those two islands in the Channel Islands?
Yes,
Yeah, they left them there for a long time. They didn't bother with them. The Channel Islands, Guernsey and Jersey. Right. But they were still in Cherbourg in September? Wow. So anyhow, then you guys eventually were sent where?
we were sent to Nancy. That's
Nancy?
where we really joined the thing, yeah.
Yeah.
The fighting was very close there. We didn't really get into it till a little later in the Maginot Line at a place called Singling.
Singling.
Yeah, we were in Singling and out of Singling and back again. We fought over that goddamn little town 13 times, I think.
Really? How long did it take to take it?
Well, that was our introduction to the battle. We were green troops. We were committed. And we saw a lot of tanks knocked out by the Germans. The Germans did a thing there that we first saw it. They had a gun inside of a garage and they had an overhead door on it. I had never seen an overhead door at that time. So what they do is they're in there and they're quiet and our tanks come up and they're on mud. They can't maneuver very easily. And they throw the garage door up and they knock out the tank, first tank and the second tank. They got an 88 in there. And so they had a whole goddamn string of our tanks all knocked out with the guys still in them and everything.
Wow.
So at that time, I first saw, the first thing I saw, a guy cut a guy's finger off to get his ring.
So anyhow, this was in Singling on the Maginot Line, and eventually, after Singling, what happened? Was that around Christmas time, by the way? When was that? Late November?
Would have been around Thanksgiving time, yeah.
And then what did you do between Thanksgiving and Christmas?
I can't remember.
Okay, but Herrlisheim started
It wasn't until January.
January, so you don't remember exactly what happened in there.
No.
Okay, but anyhow, Herrlisheim. Start with what happened to you at Herrlisheim. You're out.
I was at a town called Bischweiler, and we were firing into Herrlisheim. I was on the French side of the Rhine River, and Herrlisheim was on the other side.
No,
It was up.
it was close, but it's still France. Herrlisheim was still France. And you were firing from where? Bischweiler.
Bischweiler.
How far was that from Herrlisheim?
About 3,000 yards.
And did you receive any fire?
Well, Alsace-Andy was firing interdiction fire on the crossroads all the time we were there.
What was Alsace-Andy?
Alsace-Andy was a big gun on the other side of the Rhine River, maybe 20 miles away, and they used to fire at us. They were inside of a railroad bridge. They used to move the gun out and fire and move it back in again.
You mean a railroad tunnel?
Yeah, because our planes were looking for it all the time.
Right. So this gun was in the railroad tunnel, and they pull it out and fire one shell or how many?
One at a time.
One at a time. Then they go back in again.
Yeah. Well, our planes were looking for it all the time and couldn't find it. That's why they couldn't find it,
Right.
because they were hiding it all the time.
And Eddie, did you use your artillery on what were you doing with?
We were supporting our troops up in Herrlisheim. We had all, and the first night I remember, we had all things set up so that when they called for fire up there, we were automatically gonna fire pre-described type of shells and all that.
Yeah.
And we had got the message that we fired that night, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning.
So, did you also tried to support the men in the Steinwald Woods, didn't you?
Well, we were fighting for the Steinwall Woods at the same time.
Right.
And A battery, which was one of our batteries, got pinned down under. And the Florida Observer radio worked, and he kept on calling back. They were getting him. He was in a position where the ground protected him, sort of. But they kept on firing at
Do
him.
you know his name?
Foster,
What was
Sam
it?
Foster.
Sam Foster.
Eventually, they killed him.
And he was calling for help, or was
He was calling for fire.
Fire.
But this Steinwall forest, you have to understand, they replanted the forests in this part of the world. And they got tall trees, and they're dug in way down at the bottom. So when we fired, the shells hit the trees up high, it never bothered the guys down there. So you couldn't reach them. They could fire out because the trees were all on the road,
Yeah.
with their machine guns and that, but we couldn't hit them.
And
So that went on for a few days. We lost that battle.
Who was in your tank?
Who was in what?
Your tank? Did you have
Your
another
M-
group?
Well, I was in the, I forgot what you call it now, the reconnaissance group at that time. That was the FOs and all that. But I was down on the firing battery on the thing. I was the recorder.
But who else was in that?
who was in your...
Joe Bull
Joe Boland?
and a fellow H.H. Harold Horton.
What happened to Joe subsequently?
Harold Horton lost a leg in that battle we're talking about.
Oh.
And Joe got captured.
Joe got captured.
Tell about that.
He and a fellow by the name of Billy McNaughton were up
Where
in
was Billy
Hurlesheim,
McNaughton
and they both got captured. Well, I asked them what happened, and they said, well, they were down in the basement, and they came out to talk on their radio to me to fire the thing, and the tank pulled up and pointed the 88 right down the door of the basement. And they went to get back down there, and McNaughton got hit twice with the machine gun.
Was he captured at that time?
Yes, both of them.
And he lost his leg and he's lived through it?
No, that was Harold Horton that lost his leg,
Oh, I see.
not McNaughton. But McNaughton was shot in the arm,
I see.
in the leg, and he did live through it.
And so did, and
He kept on going, but Bowen found a very thing. He buddied up with another guy, and you know, this was rural area. They all milked the cows and all that, left the milk cans out by the street. Well, when they pour those milk cans, there's always a little left in there. So Bowen and this other guy would take their mess cups. We always carried a mess cup with us.
Right.
And they would pour the rest of the cream in there. And they were both heavy. They were fat like the Germans were, not the American prisoners. Were all skinny. So they got into town, and an SS officer saw them. He wanted to know who the hell they were, because they looked so healthy. And that was because of the cream that they got out of it.
Is that right?
Yeah,
But they were already captured when the German officer wanted to know about it.
yeah. They were prisoners of war.
Right.
But they walked them along the road?
They walked...
Well, they were running them away from us. We were coming, and they were trying to stay ahead of us. So every day they roused them up and make them start moving. And that's what was happening at that time. We were cutting off the whole German army.
Exactly where was this? When was this you're talking about?
This was March of
Oh, well, we jumped ahead a little bit.
45.
That was March of 45, so we're out of Herrlisheim a long time.
Yeah, Hurlesheim was January.
Yeah, January. I just wanted to come back to Herrlisheim for a second. C-66 was really shot up at the Steinwald Woods. And you were, did you see these guys out there, or you were too far away?
And we were talking to our guys on the radio, but we only saw Steinwall Forest
Okay.
on the map.
All right, so now now somehow you're replaced. Who replaced you at Herrlisheim?
36th.
The 36th Division. Are they an infantry or a
Yeah, they were in a regular infantry outfit
Regular-
from Italy.
regular infantry outfit? All right, so the 36th replaced you, and you guys then, this is in the late January, and you go down to Colmar, right? So anything you want to say about Colmar, that campaign, Colmar Pocket?
We were with the 28th, the Buddy Bucket from Pennsylvania, and I had 2 buddies in there. So I went looking for them when I got the thing, and I didn't find them. When I got back to my own battery, they were waiting there for me.
What were their names?
What were their names?
Mike Hyman from Buffalo and Benny Pogowitz from Buffalo. They were both in the Pennsylvania. That was the Pennsylvania National Guard, the 28th.
Right. So tell me about liberating wine down there in the Colmar area.
Well, after the thing was over, we went out looking, and some of the Germans showed us where they had it stashed in the mountains. You had to walk quite a ways. They had tunnels dug in there, and they had kept it hidden on the Germans all the time. The Germans occupied them there. But they gave it to us. We had cases of champagne and everything out of there. So we put it all on our half-track, all that, and some of those guys were drunk for a week, and they took it all away from us.
Yeah, you mentioned a second ago, you said some of the Germans showed us where it was. You meant the French showed us where it was.
Yeah,
Some of the Alsatian French showed you where it all was.
yeah.
And so, do you remember fighting with the Moroccan soldiers or the French
Well,
soldiers?
they were with us at that time,
Yeah,
the French 2nd Armored Division.
right.
They were for shit.
Who were,
They used to light lights at, they used to keep light flashlights at night in the dark and everything, give away your position. They talked, and they brought their wives and everything up every time they moved. They had them with them.
yeah. That sounds like the old-time army.
They were an old-time army.
And so anyhow, you eventually took Colmar. There was a Herrlisheim there too. Did you ever go to that Herrlisheim? There's a Herrlisheim south in Colmar. So anyhow,
That was the 28th really took that. We passed Scoom in the morning with our tanks. They already had the town captured.
that town, okay. And did you take the town of Colmar itself?
That was it. When we woke up that morning, we passed through, we went by the 28th. They were already guarding the entrance to Colmar.
I see. Okay. So then, we're done with Colmar. Then we go, the next big thing is crossing the Rhine.
Next big thing is we go to Trier. Long march. Take all the insignia off of everything. We became the mystery division. We were going up to join Patton.
Yeah,
Patton was fighting on the side of the Bulge at the time,
right.
and he needed troops. So they sent the whole 12th up there to him. We marched 116 miles.
116 miles.
Yeah, and we had cat eyes on. We couldn't see, and we were on the side of mountains and everything.
How long did it take?
All night. We maybe went 12 hours. From 8 one evening until 8 the next morning before we got there.
And then, that's roughly, I happen to know, it's roughly March 24th, March 25th.
March 16th, I think.
March 16th.
Yeah.
Then what happened?
Well, at that time, we joined Patton's army. We were at a town called Trier, and we made the march to the Rhine. We started going, and we kept on going. We went through, cut off all kind of German prisoners and everything, all the way to the Rhine River. And before we got there, we heard they had captured a bridge across the Rhine at Remagen. But we didn't go there. We went to
Worms.
Worms, yeah, on the Rhine.
And did you have to make a bridge there, or was there a bridge there?
No, the bridge was out there. Our engineers built one. And a couple of days later, we crossed over it.
Right. So now you're on the other side of the Rhine, and I'm guessing it's roughly March 25th or something like that. Did you go through Speyer? Does that name ring a bell? You
No.
did. You missed that town.
I don't know.
Okay. Now, so you're on the other side of the Rhine. Then what happens?
Well, we didn't meet any opposition there. We went on, we started going through towns, and they all had sheets in their windows. The Burgermeister was surrendering the town before we even got there.
And so you were going across Germany pretty fast.
Yeah, we were. We were stopping to capture a lot of prisoners. We had prisoners, and the whole German army was trying to get through us and get back home.
And you said something about you let them pass through you. Why would you do a thing like that?
We didn't have anything to do with them. What the hell did we need them for?
But weren't you afraid?
They were running away from the front. They were Gefangers, they used to call them.
Gefangenen, prisoners.
Prisoners, yeah.
Yeah.
So what were we gonna do with them? We couldn't stop and take care of them.
Right.
We wanted to give them to the, he started talking about who was gonna be the government there.
Yeah.
So we were looking for the troops that were gonna be the government. We were gonna give the prisoners to them.
Right.
We weren't gonna take care of them.
So you were starting to move pretty fast across Germany, leaving the prisoners behind, and I saw pictures, they were sort of walking down the highway while you were driving past.
Yeah,
That was the kind of scene you were talking about.
yeah.
So how fast did you go?
Well, we could only go maybe 15 miles an hour.
And how many hours a day?
We went all day. At that time, we were moving night and day. We were heading towards southern Germany.
Night and day. So how many days did it take you to fight your way across Germany and drive across Germany?
I would think 3 days is all.
3 days?
At that time, from the Rhine River to where we wound up, it only took about 3 days. Those countries are a lot smaller than the U.S., as you know.
Yeah. Were you on the Autobahn?
Yeah, we went on the Autobahn.
I see. So you finally get down around Ulm, and it's there where you think you found Eichmann.
Yeah.
All right, so that ties us in. And you mentioned to me it was after President Roosevelt died, right? And it was before, which was April 12th, 45, and before the capture of the bridge at Dillingen, which was, I forgot, April 27th or something like that. April 22nd. So somewhere in there. Can you estimate, was it very close to FDR's birthday or very close to Dillingen? You don't know. In between. All right. So you got to Dillingen. Did you cross the bridge at Dillingen? And that put you're crossing from north to south, isn't that correct? And you're crossing the Danube at Dillingen. All right, so then what happened?
Well, we found a concentration camp there before we crossed over that bridge.
Oh, what was the concentration camp? Was that Landsberg?
Landsberg.
That was Landsberg. And what did you see there at Landsberg?
Well, we jumped off our vehicle and ran back in. It was smoking. He had started them on fire. And we found 13 Jews alive from Hungary. They were only 18 years old. They hadn't been taken until they were 17. And they were only there a year. But they all had scars on their shins from getting kicked.
So you found 17 boys alive. Hungarian.
17 people alive. Some of them were guards, Russians that were guards in that. But most of them were Jews that had been there a year.
Right.
Young kids.
Did you see, had the Germans killed anybody recently, or were they just...
They killed them all as they were leaving. They shot them all in the back of the head and laid them out by the tracks.
What about in the railroad cars? Did you see anything?
There were nobody in the cars. They were too weak to get in.
So they were near the cars?
They were laid out at the railroad, at the tracks.
How many did you see there, roughly?
Maybe 300.
Just murdered there?
Yeah. Well, they murdered them as they were going away.
You ever catch up with those guys?
No. Never had the chance.
Had you been aware that this was going on?
Not until then.
Not until then. Did you go to any other camps around there?
There were some around there, but we never got to them.
Yeah.
We got chased out of that one. Our medical officer from the battalion came in and ordered us all out. There was some kind of disease you could catch in there.
Like typhus?
Typhus, yeah.
Right. So anyhow, you proceeded from there. Where were you when the war ended? Or is there anything that you forgot to mention?
Garmisch-Partenkirchen.
Where? Garmisch-Partenkirchen.
for the Olympics.
Yes. You went to Garmisch.
Foothills of the Alp Mountains.
Yeah.
He helped started right there.
And that's where you ended up. And then, is there anything you'd like to mention about, I interrupted you about these fellas these prisoners who were drinking milk along the way in March. Any other incidents like that? Well, maybe we'll get to that when we talk about the pictures. So, now you are in Garmisch and the war ends. Then what happens to you?
I don't even remember.
This was May 5th. Or May, whatever.
8th.
8th. And what did the guys do at the end of the war? They celebrate or what?
Not really.
They didn't.
Well, nobody wanted to get shot in those last days. Everybody was very careful.
What was the story about the guy who was got shot while somebody was shooting ducks?
That was in the beginning. The first position we were in. A-Battery was on one side of it and we were on the other side. There was a culvert in between with a creeper in it too. And they were shooting at the ducks and one of the bullets ricocheted and hit our guy in the neck. He was the first one killed in our outfit.
What was his name?
I know it, I just can't think of it because one of the Buffalo pitchers at that time had the same name.
Not Spahn.
No. Spahn was from Buffalo, but he didn't play on Buffalo's
I see.
team ever.
All right, well, I'll find that name for you in a minute. So anyhow...
Elliott was his name.
What, Elliott? Yeah,
we used to call him Ace Elliott.
Ace
We
Elliott.
had a pitcher by that name.
Right,
He was from New Orleans.
right.
He was the first one killed in B Battery of the 493rd.
Right. So now, what, you said that you were pulled out and you were going to go into Japan. What happened? How did that?
That was way later.
Okay, well, what happened in between? Can you remember?
Well, we went into a thing in the Army of Occupation, like the German things. We were in a town called Heidenheim.
And you were in occupation for it?
We were doing nothing really. But they were choosing guys to go to this group all the time. And I finally got called to it. And I had to go. They were looking for a recorder, and that's what I was. So when your number comes up, you're gone.
What was the outfit you joined?
3rd Armored,
3rd Armored Division.
27th Field Artillery, Armored Field Artillery Battalion.
I see. So you're in with a bunch of guys you didn't know.
Yeah.
And so roughly when did you leave Germany for wherever you went?
They sent me to the Riviera for 6 weeks. And after that, I went up to Le Havre and joined guys from other places that were in it, supposed to go to Japan too. And we were hung there for a while. All kind of things happened to us. Our name was Trouble.
What did you guys do?
Well, one of the things I did, I used to want to go to the movies, but I didn't want to go to the early show, and you couldn't get in the late show. So once I went and got in line to go to the late show, and I see them coming out, and they're coming out one of the side doors, so I figured I'll go in the side door. When they come out, I'll wait for the second show. Well, a lot of guys followed me, and they were going to show the second show, and the goddamn place was full already, and they hadn't let anybody in. So some guy from the MPs got up on the stage and ordered us out of there, and we just sat there and looked at him. We snickered, as a matter of fact. And he wound up pulling his gun and ordering us out, and we laughed at him. You got to remember, these were all guys that had been through the war.
Right.
He had a hell of a lot of nerve being up there. He's lucky because they all had guns. He's lucky he didn't get shot.
So did you see the movie?
No, he wouldn't show it then. He said we could sit there as long as we wanted. They were not going to show the movie. We never got to see it.
What was the movie? Anyhow?
I don't remember now.
So anyhow, you got, when did you get word that the Japanese had surrendered, or that we had dropped the atom bomb or whatever?
We heard that right after they dropped the atom bomb.
And was the trip canceled then to Japan, or what
They
happened?
didn't tell us for a long time whether we were going or not going. Meanwhile, we were making all kinds of songs up. We found out Truman was president at the time. So, the 82nd Airborne bumped us off at Christmas time. We were supposed to go, and we didn't go because they had to go, and they had priority. So we started asking how the hell we could get priority. So they said, ask the president.
Yeah.
So they made up a song, please, Mr. Truman, when can we go home? We have conquered Naples and we have conquered Rome. We defeated the master race, and now you say no shipping space. Oh, please, Mr. Truman, when can we go home?
That's a great song. Could you stop the machine a minute?
I didn't even know he was president at the time.
What was that song about again? Sing it again in case there was too much
Please,
noise.
Mr. Truman, when can we go home? We have conquered Naples and we have conquered Rome. We defeated the master race, and now you say no shippings. Oh, please, Mr. Truman, when can we go home?
Yeah, so when did you go
That's
home?
a tune to Lily Marlene.
Oh, Lily Marlene.
Yeah, that's the tune to it.
Yeah.
I'll try and work that out, how that goes. Anyhow, so when did you get word you could go home? When did you go home? When did you go to the
February 46.
February 46?
Yeah,
Holy cow.
we were there a while.
You were stuck.
Yeah, that's how we made up that song. We were really stuck. Every goddamn day, we get up, we knew we were gonna get fed. We didn't have to fight any war, but we couldn't go any place or anything.
Right. But anyhow, you didn't have to invade Japan,
No,
which was good. So anyhow, you left in February. You remember the ship you went home on?
no, it was one of those Liberty ships,
Liberty ships, yeah. So where did you land?
New York.
Did you see the Statue of Liberty?
Yes,
How did it feel?
it was great to be back home and be alive.
Were there any ships there shooting water in the air and all that?
No. The war was well over.
Yeah.
They wondered what the hell we were doing around that lake, to tell you the truth.
So anyhow, you get back in January and you come back, where did you head? Where'd you go?
Camp Shanks,
Camp Shanks. And how long were you there?
few days,
And then where were you discharged?
right there.
Right there. So you come home to warm Buffalo in January.
Well, I called ahead first to get the snow clear.
So you came back to Buffalo. So that brings me to another topic. We want to now know about the two parts of your life before the war and after the war. So we'll start with before the war.
Before the war, I lived at 17 Tioga. When I came home, I was at the same house.
Yeah.
And now my brother was coming home from the Army too. And we only had one bed between us. He was an officer.
Well, start at the beginning. You were born in,
I was born in 1921.
and you had how many brothers and sisters?
3 sisters and 2 brothers.
6 kids,
You wouldn't know.
and you were the youngest.
Yep,
All right. So where did you go to school in Buffalo?
53 in Maston Park.
I see. And you went to high school where?
Maston Park.
And did you do any college work?
No.
No. So anyhow, then after, then you, you have any friends you went in the Army with at that time? When you enlisted, when you...
Well, it's McNaughton from Buffalo, I knew. And he was drafted at the same time I was.
I see.
We both went to the 12th.
Oh, he went to the 12th as well. Is he still around?
No, he's dead.
He's dead now. So anyhow, that's your sort of the outline before the war. Then after the war, when did you get married?
1951.
51. And were you in business before that, or what did you do before that?
No, we opened up the business after I married her. She was my partner.
And what is your business, so everybody knows?
Appliance business.
Appliance business.
What's the name?
Orville's.
Orville's. Okay. So anyhow, You didn't know that? So anyhow, you had, and how long did you run that business?
Well, it's still going now.
Yeah,
My son is running it.
right. How many kids did you have?
4. 1 boy and 3 girls.
All right, the boy is named what?
David,
And he runs the business.
right.
And then you have 3 daughters. So who was born first?
Jan, she's in England, in London.
She lives in London. She have children?
5.
5? Okay, and,
Religious.
pardon?
She's very religious.
And she's religious. You know, we never made clear, what religion were you born into?
Jewish.
You were Jewish. What, did you feel as though you were Jewish when you were growing up?
No,
Not really. You were more assimilated, right?
I definitely was.
You were assimilated.
Yeah.
But but your daughter became a religious person. Then what about your other 2 daughters?
One is in Sacramento, California, and the other one is around the corner from us.
Right. And do these girls have children?
Yes,
How many grandchildren?
2.
Each?
Yes,
You have 9 grandchildren.
11.
David
11.
has 2.
Huh?
David.
Has 2, right. 11. Well, that's a lot. Okay. Anything else you want to say about your family? And then, by the way, we never introduced, might show Ann over there. This is Orville's wife, Ann. The
Or
partner.
That's the first
The first time?
he's ever said I was his partner.
Well, you were his partner because because you wrote joint tax returns.
No, well, I truly was his partner. I mean, I was there.
You were there. Okay, that's great.
Yeah. We did it together.
You did it together. Well, it's a very nice store.
Yes.
I'm going to make a business to shop there.
No.
I haven't ever...
You'll be a very wise shopper.
You joined the top 2% of the people in Erie County that were smart enough to buy from me.
Okay.
It was very hard to buy from me when I had it.
No,
I was not nice.
No.
You were not nice?
No,
He was a tough, he was called Orville the Price Cutter, and that was his intent, to give the lowest price possible, and he did, knowingly, he certainly always tried to, but he was tough. I mean, he kept expenses down, and the work was on our backs, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
he drained every ounce out of ourselves, and that he was and is a very honest person. He has integrity, and there's much, and a hard working man, and but he would not permit anybody, our children or customers, to lie to him. So he was a tough taskmaster at home.
I don't know if you ever shopped for appliances, but you know, the big thing was you were all full of crap all the time, just like a car dealer. But I wasn't like that,
No, he was-
and I didn't let you treat me like that.
Right. Well, that's great.
You had a total liner, I threw you out.
You were an army man. Let's face it. Listen, Orville, I've got some pictures that Ann brought over. Could you just sort of talk about these guys? I don't think we can reproduce this on film, but just sort of go through these one at a time. And
This was the original 493rd. These guys, that was taken.
can you remember the
First
names?
there.
Camp
See if you can
A
give
lot of them.
name some names there.
This
Orville.
is Hanson. He's from Detroit. And the guy by the name of Cheatham, he was a southerner, I don't know where from. And this is Kosubski. He's from Buffalo.
Kasubski.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that name.
Good.
Thaddeus. Teddy.
Teddy Kasubski.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Keep going. Keep going.
I see one guy here is Kendall. He was from California. And I'm the next one. And this is Melroy Ferran. He became an officer. And he was back here. Ann met him at the reunions. He was from Wisconsin, Tomahawk, Wisconsin. He showed me how to kill a deer. While the war was on one morning, well, the night before they had given us deer steaks to eat. And I was crazy. The meat was so good. Fresh meat, you know. The next morning I got up and I started chasing the deer. They have little deer there,
Yeah.
and the forests are all reforested. So I'm chasing them, and I'm shooting into the group of deer with my carbine, and I hit it in the ass. They fall down, and they get up again, keep on running. So he came along and said to me, "That isn't what you do," he says. "You gotta hit him right in the shoulder, right hard, or the head," he said. So he hit one right away, and we had meat. So I didn't have to chase him anymore. When he was from Tomahawk, and
Yeah.
he hunted deer around his house all the time.
Right.
So he knew all about it. I was a city boy.
Right.
I didn't know how to hunt deer.
Right.
Who else?
This is Lipinski.
Lipinski.
Yeah. He used to faint every time he got a shot. He'd fall on a guy that was behind.
You mean-
So he fell on me one day.
Because he got a
He got a shot and he fainted.
He-
He was a tall guy too, big man.
An injection?
She knew him, she
Yeah.
met him after.
Here's the picture. Maybe you can zoom in on that picture of these guys. Okay? All right. Now, who are these guys?
Well, this guy's name is Baker, and he was in Detroit too. This guy is Duffy, he was from New York City. And this guy is Louis, I forgot his last name. He's from South Carolina.
When was this picture taken? You're over
It looks like it's right after the war.
right after the war.
Yeah, it looks like that's the Brenner Pass there.
It is. It is a Brenner. There's a sign Brenner. Who are these two guys?
Me and a guy by the name of Joseph Ann. That's me.
On the Riviera, I might.
Yeah,
After the war.
yeah.
Looking like you're having a good time there. Okay.
Well, we had money,
And is this you?
yes.
This is Orville and the Riviera.
That's me.
That's you. Okay, it's not a very, well, look, put it in there. There's Orville and the Riviera. There's some duplicates here. This is the Arc de Triomphe. You were in Paris. All right, I'm going to get pictures of you, of your equipment now. Tell me about this thing. What
It's
is
an
it?
M7.
An M7.
That's a 105 we're touching. That's me and the McNaughton, the guy that was captured.
So this is Orville and McNaughton next to their 105.
Right.
Wait a minute.
That's me.
Is that a half-track?
That's a half-track that we were on all the time.
This is his half-track.
That's a field jacket liner that I got home and we lost somehow. I don't know how.
Field jacket liner, okay.
I think we
That's in the middle of the war that was taken.
That's in the middle of the war.
Right.
What about this one?
It's me and Peffer and the war is over. That was my best friend, Peffer. That's why
Pef
I
Bolheim.
used to sleep. That's where we were first after the war.
Pef Bolheim and Orville. All right. What the heck are you doing there, for goodness sake?
That's not me.
It's not you.
That's McNaughton. He's on top of the gun.
There's McNaughton on top of the gun. Is the 105? Tell me about compare the 105 range to a 88.
Where 105 is a howitzer and the 88 is a rifle.
Yeah,
So they're different.
they're different.
Yeah, the 88 fired flat trajectory and came in an instant. The 105 booped in and it took time.
Right. And who are these guys?
This is hard.
There's some names on the back.
Well, Fiola's there, hot dog. He's one of them. He's the one on his side.
Uh-huh.
Chuck Fiola. He's from New Kansas, PA.
Chuck Fiola and Ben Tubin and Harold Hershey are in there. Okay. And this is
That's me and Peffer.
This is you and Peffer, all right? Where was that? Camp Campbell or something?
No, Barclay.
This is at Barclay,
Yeah.
Camp Barclay. What's going on here?
That's not me, that's my brother in the South Pacific.
What was he doing, your brother in the South
That
Pacific?
was the officer.
The officer, was he an Army or a Marine?
Army.
And here you in Camp Barclay.
That's absolutely right.
This is Orville and Camp Barclay, 1943. There's Tannhausen or something like that in Germany after the war.
Yes, July 45.
Yeah.
Getting a stomach on me again.
Yeah. And that's the same picture. Entering Austria, well, that's just a sign. What's this?
That's the M7. You can see the 50. We had a turret in there.
Oh yeah, there's an M7.
It was mounted on a skate mount.
Okay. What's this ammunition here?
These are 105s being prepared to load.
And you're fighting because there's snow all around there. They're 105, these are 105 shells getting ready to load in the middle of the winter. This is in Germany, and the names here are Fran, Banasek,
Must be
Wisnik,
Christmas
Sarles.
time. It's Christmas time.
Christmas.
Yeah. Christmas 44.
This is Christmas 44. And the names are, the first one they don't know left to right, Fran, Banasek, Wisnik, and Sarles. This is the Camp Barclay. What is this volcano, or what is this thing here? No, looks like a volcano. Could it be your brother's picture?
I don't know.
Okay. Your training.
I don't remember his name.
Was that, this was training?
No, that's in the war.
This is in the war,
It's
but
a cornfield behind us there.
cornfield with a bunch of tanks back there, or
That's our
self-propelled
own
guns.
tanks.
Are these tanks your self-propelled
They're
guns? Parked, yeah,
We were in parks then.
right. Looks freezing there.
That's a winter.
It's during the war.
Well, you had to be careful. Remind people things. Used to wake up, you couldn't light a fire till 8 in the morning. And the guys always had gas, so they could throw it on there and start a fire right away.
Right.
Well, they'd throw it on, the guy would flare up, and the Germans would shoot an 88 at you. Because it was so flat there.
Right,
They could see you.
right.
So you'd hit before you had your breakfast.
Oh my God. This is a self-propelled gun,
Yeah, that's the M7.
the M7.
Good picture of it.
Yeah.
Is that Molesky standing there? I can't see.
Let's see if it says it on the back. Yes,
John Molesky.
there's John Molesky.
Looked like him.
Yeah. This is John Molesky, his buddy who helped capture Eichmann. Pink Early.
That's his name, Pink. They used to cheat him in cards all the time.
You used to cheat him in cards.
Not me. The first sergeant and a guy by the name of Bass. He used to get drunk, and they used to get him in a card game, and they stole his money all the time.
And here's Guzman.
Guzman was from Colorado.
It's funny, everybody calls everybody by their last name.
Yeah, that's true.
You never called them by their
I
first
don't
name.
remember his first name.
Guzman. Where are you here? No luck?
Germany someplace.
Germany, something.
Yeah,
And this is you, I think. I don't know, is that you?
yes.
All right. Where's this?
Pfeffer, I'm one of them. Compton was the driver.
And is this overseas?
Yes.
So Pfeffer and Orville and Compton and somebody else. Okay. This is Kittner. Any stories about Kittner?
None I remember.
None that you remember right now. Okay. Waits and Kosupski. Is Kosupski the Buffalonian?
Funny story about him. He got drunk after we were down at Camp Campbell, and he wound up in North Tonawanda. He don't remember a thing. Just like that, we were in Camp Campbell at the time.
And
you couldn't even find your way up here if you were sober. He was drunk and he wound up in North Tonawanda.
So what happened?
He got home, he wanted to get home to his wife.
Kosupski. I know
Well,
it.
this guy is from Detroit too.
Callahan.
He's a lace curtain Irishman.
This is Callahan from Detroit. I don't know what this is.
You're getting ready to go overseas.
I
They're
see.
cleaning up stuff.
I see. Well, that's an interesting
Putting
picture.
Cosmoline.
Putting Cosmoline on the weapons, getting ready to go overseas. What is this miserable little tank? It's a light tank, isn't it?
No, it's an M7.
Is that an M7?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there's an M7. I didn't recognize it.
Well, you just look for that thing where the machine gun
The round thing?
go around it.
Yeah, I saw that,
Yeah.
I saw that.
It's a skate jump.
Yep. What's this baby carriage doing here?
It's just one of the guys in Abilene.
He evidently had a family.
I don't know, maybe. I don't even remember who he was.
Who is this guy with the gun? You look pretty tough in that picture.
That's my gun.
know.
That's a carbine.
Yeah. Is that you?
Yes.
This is Orville, ready for bear, except that it's in Abilene.
That was my half-track driver, John Ford, from Texas.
John Ford?
Ford, F-O-R-E.
John Ford from Texas. No good?
Over this way. There.
John Ford from Texas. His half-track driver.
driver.
Half-track driver.
He tried to teach me how to drive it. I was never too good. This is in Germany.
All right, this is Pfeffer and Orville. John Pfeffer and Orville Sarles. But this guy is drinking something in Germany. I don't know what it was. And then, I don't know what this is except that it's a shot of your M7. All right, Orville, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think I said it all.
You said it all. Well, thanks so much, Orville. Thank you so much for everything you did.
You're welcome, I'm sure.
Thank you.